Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6:30. I would like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, November 27th to order. I would first like to respectfully acknowledge that the city of Colwood lies within the traditional territories of the Lekwungen speaking peoples, represented by the Kasepsum and Songhees nations, who have provided stewardship of these lands since time immemorial. Just next item, approval of the agenda. We have a mover and seconder to receive the near term and today's agenda of the regular council meeting be adopted as presented. Okay, Mr. Grove and Councillor Jordison. Any discussion? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. We'll move on. Release of in-camera resolutions. There are 7 resolutions that have been released from the 14 November in-camera meeting. They're provided in the agenda for information to the public. You could just click on them and you get all the details. Messages, I have quite a few tonight, so please indulge with me. I have 7 different things to announce. Just some various community events that are happening. And first of all, just the Island Equipment Owners Association Truck and Food Drive Parade. That's on December 2nd. And we're excited to welcome the IEOA to Colwood. It's going to terminate at Royal Bay. So this is a big thing to us. It's moved from Langford to Colwood. And so the parade will be rolling through Colwood around 8 p.m. But the event started about 5:30 down in the Commons shopping center. Being hosted by Grablecraft Homes, Quality Foods, Starbucks, Cascade Liquor, and Peer Integrated Pharmacy. So lots of events for the kids. So really looking forward to this. The second event I just want to remind everyone is the City of Colwood Christmas Light Up. This event is being sponsored again this year by Red Barn Market at Latoria Walk, Portofino Bakery, and Royal Bay Bakery. It'll take place at City Hall from 5 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, December 5th. And you're going to be lucky because all these folks up here will be serving the food. And I understand we're going to get a very special guest that is going to be riding in with the fire department. So I look forward to that. We also have the Wantafuka West Shore Parks and Rec people that are coming in and are going to do crafts for the kids. So look forward to that. Another item, just for your information, it's free to register Railroads University Climate Week. That is a series of climate action topics that's going to happen from December 4th to December 8th. The events are posted on the Royal Roads University website, so I encourage you to look at it because they're free. Some of them are online events and some of them are in person. So get yourself registered. On December 14th, Royal Roads University will also be hosting a free virtual online event to discuss challenges of climate change and cause for optimism following the 28th Conference of Parties, COP28. This event, again, is free and it goes from 1 to 2:30. Again, you can register on the Royal Roads University website. The next item I have is for the first time, the Victoria Symphony with Ken Levine is coming to Colwood. And he'll be performing here on Monday, December 18th at the Dogwood Auditorium at Royal Roads University. It starts at 7:30. Tickets are available online. And it's my understanding the Victoria Symphony plans to come back in the spring here in Colwood and do another event either at the auditorium or at the high school. So that's to be determined. As the result of next item is for your interest. I was told I can release this now. As a result of a briefing note that I wrote back in March of this year, April of this year, and with the support of council, I went to the Minister of Health and said, Minister, we have 0 family doctors. He asked me what my solution was. I said, I have 2. I have a short-term need and I have a medium need that I have to fulfill. The short-term solution right now is going to happen now. In case some of you may have noticed that the old Clawwood walk-in clinic, there's work going on there right now. They started on the 1st of November. Unfortunately, a few delays here with supply chain issues again. And they're supposed to be finished around the 15th of December, but it will just be a soft opening then. They're not announcing anything because they don't have enough doctors recruited for the clinic. But it's good news. That's one issue because that'll look after, it's a walk-in clinic, so it's urgent care. What is of more interest to me is longitudinal care for the residents of Colwood. And that's another endeavor that we're working on right now. I'll just say it's a work in progress. So, but we're very optimistic of the outcome of this. So I guess what I'm allowed to announce, hopefully early in the new year, the West Shore Primary Care Society, who is actually looking after managing the rebuild of the medical clinic, they will be coming up with an official announcements opening the urgent care facility back in Colwood Corners. So it's great news for all of us. And the last thing I just want to bring out is just a heartfelt congratulations to one of our staff, Yasmin and Andy, on the birth of their daughter, Leila, born on Saturday. So she went on maternity leave on Friday and then had the baby Saturday. So new record, phenomenal. That's all I have for Mayor's remarks. Does anyone in council have anything to add? Okay, perfect. We'll move on. Adoption and receipt of the minutes. May have a mover and seconder that the recommendation under item 5 of the agenda be adopted and received. Okay, thank you. That's Councillor Olson and Councillor Ward. Okay, Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, I just want to inquire with staff the minutes from the November 14th regular council meeting. Item 6.1, the CRD water program. It's recorded that council objects to the Capital Regional Water Supply Service Development Cost Charge Program. That's the only wording that's there. The motion was that we draft a letter from mayor and council to express concern about and reject the plan to the CRD and seek additional consultation and data. So I wanted to make sure that that letter will and that motion carried majority. So great, thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Ward. Are there any other errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. I'll now open it up for public participation. And I understand I have one that wants to wait for the item. That will be an online call-in. Is there anyone in public? Please, come. Carol, please come on up. Ms. Brown.
Good evening. This evening, a new reimagined environmental West Shore organization is asking Colwood Council for their support. This is a grassroots, multi-municipal community initiative that Scenic supports and has recently partnered with. It is our hope that the city will also partner and support Reimagine. We are fortunate to have this climate-conscious group of people focus on promoting sustainable behaviors. They offer ways to promote climate actions through concrete opportunities, such as gatherings, workshop events, and active conversations. Scenic hopes that you will see the benefits of supporting such an organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Anyone else would like to come up? Please.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on Carol to say I am delighted and here tonight to lend my support and the support of an organization that Colwood is also part of, a regional collaborative network called the Village Initiative, which is all about promoting the health and well-being of young people and families across this beautiful community from Colwood out to Port Renfrew, Pacheedaht. And you know what? Without a healthy climate, pretty hard to get healthy people. So we are at a point when we all should appreciate and in fact optimize opportunities to really pay attention to the intersectionality and get behind a cause. And I am super excited to lend 100% support to Reimagine West Shore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy.
Good evening, Karen Woodland, 524 Elevation Point Terrace. I too would like to echo the support for the new initiative, Reimagine West Shore. Cindy, Gwen, and Shannon are longtime community activists, and they're linking cost saving and the benefits of climate action, which I think is brilliant, because I do think we will create a better world when we implement climate solutions. And thank you, Mayor Kobayashi, for mentioning the Royal Roads Climate Action Week. I was just thinking back several years now to when you were engaged in federal politics. And at the time, you mentioned that climate action was one of the reasons that was motivating you to get involved. So I think this is karma, and I think it's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, I thought you were online, Mr. Day, so I got you, and I'll make sure that I get you at that point in time. Anybody else wish to speak right now? Case going once, going twice, gone. Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna move on to delegations then. 7.1, Reimagine West Shore Community Society. And Cindy Moyer, the president, I understand you are gonna do a presentation for us. Over to you, Cindy.
With the little controller, Marcy? Yeah. Just want to try something. Okay. Great. Okay. Good evening. I'm longtime Colwood resident Cindy Moyer, here on behalf of Reimagine West Shore, together with my colleagues and friends, Gwen Snyder and Shannon Carman. We're also joined this evening by Carly Fraser, a grade 12 student at Royal Bay Secondary School, whom we were introduced to by Cindy Andrew, the Director of Community Partnerships with the Village Initiative. Cindy is also here tonight because Reimagine West Shore is the newest member of TVI, now a thriving network of over 50 organizations. And we're excited to share with you this evening Reimagine's first collaboration in community with Carly, teacher Robin Ruff, and Royal Bay Secondary School on a free, cozy soup making workshop slated for December 13th at the school. We brought a few posters and have shared them around, and we hope you'll help spread the word. And thank you for having us here tonight. And thank you to the support that we've seen from our friends at Scenic, from Karen, from Cindy. We really appreciate the extra votes of confidence. Reimagine West Shore is a registered nonprofit society focused on supporting the behavioral changes we all need to make in response to the climate emergency. And it's basically the evolution of Climate Action West Shore, or CAUSE, a CRD EcoStar award-winning initiative affiliated with the West Shore Chamber of Commerce from 2007 until 2011. Reimagine West Shore's work zeroes in on the most important part of our collective mission to live more sustainably, the people part. And COVID changed the landscape. Reimagine West Shore is focusing on the behavioral changes because that seems to be where the biggest gaps are in terms of citizen engagement and the operational buy-in that needs to happen with mainstream society. Making shift happen in an emergency requires an all-hands-on-deck response. The City of Colwood and large employers like Royal Roads University and the Sault School District are taking climate action in a number of great ways, shifting as quickly as they are able. But more remains to be done to engage the mainstream in a variety of simple ways, which can align with different lifestyles and capacities to shift. And of course, one size does not fit all. by helping shine more light on more options for people to explore, learn, and introduce sustainable practices into their lives, we aim to nurture and support positive changes that help people save money and live lighter on our earth, all while building stronger community connections. So, how will we approach our work to support a societal shifting of behaviors? It's sort of everything, everywhere, all at once. We're taking a full court press approach, offering a variety of event types throughout the year, from small group meetups and community conversations to larger gatherings, social media campaigns, and special projects like the one we are currently exploring with the Souk School District. And that's separate and apart from this wonderful, spontaneous collaboration we've discovered with Carly. This slide offers a thumbnail of what we're working on for 2024 across the 4 seasons and following our 6 pillars of engagement, which are food security, beyond blue box recycling, energy conservation and zero carbon energy, green transportation, nature stewardship and conservation, and conscientious consumption and developing a local circular economy. We're here this evening to introduce ourselves and the program we're planning for 2024 and to seek modest financial support. Reimagine West Shore recently submitted our first grant and aid application to the City of Colwood, which you hope you will consider favorably. The ask of West Shore municipalities is approximately 6.25 cents per citizen, based on the latest Canada Census data, with 90% of that investment earmarked to cover the costs of events and activities hosted in the municipality. The remaining 10% would contribute to our overhead costs. We're a volunteer-run organization and have no paid staff or consultants. Events will be as cost-effective as possible. We are dedicated to working in collaboration with as many organizations as we can to maximize our reach and minimize our costs. This is very much a guerrilla operation, endeavoring to reach out and meet people where they are and helping them find the best options for taking actions to save themselves money and live more sustainable lives. There are several ways the City of Colwood could support our work, and we hope you will agree that our work is worth supporting, whether that is by helping to spread the word via your social media channels, which you could action at any time, and helping us advertise our community offerings through your Colwood Connection newsletter. Colwood could also offer us free access to meeting space to help advance the mission. And of course, we would be grateful for your support of Reimagine West Shore through that grant and aid. About our leadership team, our organization may be new, but our team is not. Each of us have deep local roots, are experienced community organizers, as well as seasoned business people who've been living, working, and making a difference on the West Shore for decades. We are each uniquely equipped for this mission with the necessary skills to understand such a program of community engagement, education, and old school hospitality. And we're driven by our shared passion as parents and grandparents who want to be able to look our children in the eyes, and when they ask, "What did you do during the climate emergency?" we'll be able to say we did everything we could to bring people together to make positive shift happen in our community. We see Reimagine West Shore's vision, mission, and values aligning with the City of Colwood's climate action plan. And we believe our outreach efforts can work in harmony with climate action and community building initiatives being developed by the city. In closing, it will take a total team effort to unite the West Shore in a meaningful citizens' response to the climate emergency. We hope you will join us in this journey to reimagine the West Shore together. Thank you, and we'd be delighted to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks very much, Cindy. I'll just open the floor to council for questions. Any questions? Councillor Jensen.
Your worship, hello Cindy, and thank
Hi.
you. Are we your first kick at the can, or have you been to some of the other communities?
We're starting with the home team.
I got you, very good. So that was the substance of my question, is where we fit in with landscape with other communities. So I'd love to hear
Yeah.
to hear how that goes for you at some of our neighboring communities.
Well, if it's any indication, I know a counselor from Chosen reached out and we're talking tomorrow about when it's best to schedule. The thing is that Colwood's grant and aid deadline is way ahead of everybody else's. The next one is January 15th for Langford. Yeah, and we've reached out to them as well. And given how Climate Action West Shore was woven into all 5 municipalities back in the day, I don't anticipate that there should be any, viral resistance to wanting to do some good work.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
You have connected with the school district, I believe.
Oh, yes, yes,
If you
absolutely.
could-
We've had a couple of conversations because we've made a pitch to them for a specific project that is not reflected in our scope of work written here, but looking to reconnect some of the things that were done by Climate Action West Shore around creating a cultural moment where you can introduce some new concept and then follow it up with concrete action.
Super, thank you. Counselor Olson?
Hi,
Hi.
I just wanted to say this has been an excellent presentation, and the pamphlet that you left each of us, this is a really, really well thought out. I just think you guys did a fantastic job, and I'm really happy to hear that you're collaborating with Scenic and and
With everybody.
with everybody. And I mentioned to Councillor Grove that you can never have too many do-gooders in the world, and so you guys are, this is really well thought out. And so I'm really excited for you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that there'll be some support here at some point, but I'm really excited to hear how you guys progress through the rest of the municipalities. So thank you for all of the work that you're putting into this. I think this is fantastic.
Thank
Yeah.
you. The feedback we've received has been rather overwhelming in terms of the positivity. We believe that we have struck a chord.
Well, we are creatures of habit, and it's really, really hard to change people's habits. It's
Yes.
a really difficult thing to do. But I like how you have it planned out, that you have very specific targeted things that you're wishing to accomplish each quarter. So I can tell that you've put a lot of work into this, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. So thank you for that and all of your work.
Thank you very much.
That's great, thank you. Counselor Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Cindy and Gwen and Shannon and and Carol and the other Cindy and Karen. Some great people obviously in support and great people behind this initiative. For me, when I see something like this emerge, my first thought is, okay, if down the road we're going to look at it from a funding perspective, what's the deliverable there, and how measurable is it? And I think that's what really strikes me with this, is that starting right off with the program overview in winter, like everything there is doable. It's something that everybody of all ages in the community can get involved in and take action right away. So, it isn't some really high 30,000 foot level, conceptual thing. This is the tangible action that we can all, take right away. So really appreciative of that. Look forward to hearing more, but thanks again for coming forward.
Thank you.
Counselor Jordison?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Cindy, I just wanted to echo what everybody else is saying as well. I just think that this is wonderful. It's very ambitious plan, but I'm sure you can handle it. Every little bit helps, and I think that this is the kind of missing middle that people just don't understand, that they can do just little things and it makes a difference. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's great. Again, Cindy, I'll just summarize by again thanking you, and thank you for being a resident of Colwood. This is an unbelievable initiative. And I know I challenged you a little bit on it because I thought you were a little aggressive by your initiatives, but you had a great response from me in that, Doug, I'm not doing all the work here. It's called delegation. And so I know how you're going about this. I think it's just fabulous. And one word that you used in there, and I think I've got a nickname for you guys now, the Colwood guerrillas, guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare is the way you win this war. I
Well,
can tell you that. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Street to street. Thank you so much.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item 8 is the consent agenda. Is there any item that anyone on council wishes me to pull from the consent agenda? And if not, I'm going to look for a motion for approval, please. Okay, Councillor Grove and Councillor Olson seconds. Discussion? Seeing none, are there any that are opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Okay, on to new business. North Latoria Corridor Summary of Rezoning Applications. And Mr. Day, if I can ask you to come up if you want to, I believe you wanted to speak here at this item. You can. Desiree, could you come up and introduce the item, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the next item in your agenda is a summary of the rezoning applications that the city has received along the North Latoria corridor area. As you know, the city is undergoing a visioning process for the North Latoria corridor, which consists of the properties on this slide here. And prior to the visioning process beginning, developers started reaching out to the city to engage in pre-application discussions. And the visioning process was initiated as a result to be more proactive and respond to the significant interest that was seen along the Latoria corridor. And so far, the purpose of the visioning process is to ensure that there's a coordinated approach amongst the various applications that we've received to date, and to ensure that the development of this area accounts for the necessary infrastructure upgrades as well as the desired outcomes from both the public and council and other stakeholders. And so this slide just provides a timeline of when the pre-application meetings began, as well as kind of where the visioning process fits within that. And just for context, the first rezoning application was received in April of 2022, and we've been postponing bringing forward those applications to council just to ensure that the visioning process is completed first, or that the applications are at least running concurrently with the visioning process. And so the purpose of tonight's application presentations is to at least share with council some of the rezoning applications that have been received to date. And for contextual purposes, there won't be a decision being made, but this is just a briefing to keep council informed of the rezoning applications that we've received. And so I'll just quickly provide an overview on the policies and bylaws that are informing the rezoning applications. So first, this slide shows kind of the rezoning applications that have been received to date. The 588 and 586 Latoria, which is shown on the very left there, is a submission that was received in the spring of 2022, and it falls within the neighborhood center. 568 and 554 and 546, the two middle applications, those are both in pre-application meeting discussion, and we just received an official submission from 544 and 546, so those two applications haven't been reviewed by Colwood staff quite yet. And then the last one on the very right there, 538 and 532, that application was also received in the spring of 2022. So the subject properties are currently zoned either rural 1 or A1 or residential 1 R1, and all of those zones permit up to A1 single family or duplex use. In terms of the land use designation, most of them are designated as hillside and shoreline, with the exception of 588 and 586 Latoria, which is designated as neighborhood centers. Just for context, the neighborhood center is permitted to go up to 4-story buildings with mixed use and commercial, and the neighborhood hillside and shoreline land use designation permits generally ground-oriented townhouses and low-rise buildings in limited situations where an environmental and ecological benefit can be achieved. This slide just shows kind of the traffic recommendations from the Joint Memo 2018. So this transportation study was prepared during the rezoning of Olympic View, Royal Bay, and Royal Beach, and it accounts for, tries to account for the types of infrastructure upgrades that are going to be needed as these areas develop in Latoria South and South Colwood. And in terms of communication, just For the visioning process, the application or the visioning has undergone phase 1. And during the phase 1 of that project, staff have communicated with the public through a series of open houses and music in the park events. And that was summarized on October 23rd. For the individual applications, applicants have been reaching out to the neighborhoods to conduct public consultation, and development notice signs have been installed on the properties that have submitted formal applications. So each of the applicants are here tonight to share with you a summary of their proposals. And I should note that the applicant of 568 Latoria mentioned that the appendix number 3 is outdated, and the plans that they are presenting to tonight will be the most recent version. And so I'll hand it over to our first applicant to present on 588, 586, and 568 Latoria. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Good evening to council and to your worship, Mayor Kobayashi as well, and to the community. And thank you, Desiree, for the introduction of those projects. We are excited today to present in principle and just showcase the plans for 586, 588 Latoria, as well as 568 Latoria Road. My name is Faris Kathrada. I'm a development coordinator with Parsi Development, the owner and developer on 586, 588, and 586 Latoria or 568 Latoria Road. Joined today by our team, our ecologists, Aquatech Scientific with Corey Barraclaw and Patrick Lucy, as well as Westbrook Engineering, our civil engineers, Eva Kovartik and Mike Wignall. I want to preface this very quickly by just mentioning the existing work we've been doing on 594 Latoria Road has been the precursor to the balance of these projects. So while it's not a matter of proposal today, it will provide some historical preface to the continuation with these. Of note, we've called this Latoria Q project. Q can stand for many things. It can stand for a queue of projects in a long queue of events. It can stand for quality, which we like to think it does. Starting with 586 and 588 Latoria Road. The current locations, as you'll note on the top map there, are directly to the east of 594 Latoria, right towards the corner of Veterans and bordering on Latoria Road. Existing zoning, A1 zoning in both of these properties, currently housing single-family homes and external accessory garages. There is both one single-family house on 588 and one single-family house on the Panhandle, the Panhandle at 588 and one single-family house on 586 Latoria. The creek enhancement and services that have been occurring through the roundabout construction, as well as the work on site servicing currently happening on 594 and at the corner of Veterans and Latoria Road, have been brought up to the edge of the property line at 588 Latoria. So with the current scope of the work, it's actually extended services right to the property boundary. That's just a little bit of context for the proposal. A little brief on the project. We are looking at a project of 122 units at a 1.57 FSR that is being proposed, a potential buildable square footage of 107,000 square foot. In compliance and in looking at the enhancement of the area, there's extended lawn and creek frontage, which you'll see in further slides, to supply further green space to the project, supplementing the 30-meter setback that's been provided for the enhancement of Latoria Creek and the previously proposed widening of Latoria Road, which I understand is still up for discussion. The neighboring site at 576 Latoria Road, neighboring to 586 and 588 Latoria Road, is currently not under active application for development. It is, it's under coordination. We're coordinating with the landowner. However, right now it provides an additional buffer zone and greenery to density. There's shared access and amenity access with 594 Latoria Road being presented in these plans. You'll notice that in further slides as I share renders. There's a potential for shared parking given the two properties backing right onto each other. There's access to a daycare facility that we are proposing and looking to construct at 594 Latoria Road to provide an additional community amenity, as well as a tapering density design, which I'll talk about in a moment. The proposal here, this is just a quick site plan overview. We'll look at the renders, which will give a much more definitive understanding of what the project looks like. But we are looking at a building of 6 stories over top underground parking. It is in the neighborhood center designation and within the center's DPA zone. In terms of the OCP and how this fits within the center's DPA guidance guidelines for compliance, the proposal is compliant with the center's DPA guideline, also sort of conforming within the neighborhood centers. The site, which is primarily to site and orient multifamily residential buildings or residential uses within mixed-use centers to overlook public streets, parks, and walkways and private communal spaces. So collectively within the neighborhood center boundary area, an FAR of 1.75 or under is being allowed. This is being proposed at 1.57, so it is under that FAR recommendation. One of the key points is the enhancement and protection of Latoria Creek. So aside from the land dedication, which has been provided in a 30-meter setback with that, the intention is to support the enhancement of Latoria Creek, either through the DCC program that will allow for that, or with additional landscaping and additional green space allowances on the site that will enhance the work that's been done with the roundabout project and now continuing to 594 Latoria and further continuing down all the way to the other projects on Latoria Road. That's been part of the visioning. There's quite a diverse number of unit mixes that we're proposing. Obviously, with an apartment or condo style building, we're looking at a mix of studio, 1-bed, and 2-bedroom units. This unit mix will allow for single occupants as well as families to be accommodated in the area, rather than just the single families that are there at the moment. There is quite an amount of outdoor space, which I'll show on the plan in a moment here. So green amenity space and outdoor extended lawn is a focus of allowing for resident access and resident usage of the properties. We want to create spaces that people can enjoy living and staying in. Stormwater treatment and detention will be on site to ensure no untreated water impacts ecosystems or filters into the creek. So prior to any water entering the creek from groundwater or stormwater, there's insurance of detention and treatment for those. Shared access with 594 Latoria's internal north road. So there's a proposed north road on 594 Latoria, which we'll see in the image in a moment. Cutting through or extending further into 586 and 588 will limit traffic exiting onto Latoria Road, primarily with traffic exiting and potentially entering in from Veterans Memorial, and allowing for, again, further allowing for both shared parking and shared road access. Step down density, which is within the OCP guidelines, is ensuring that it doesn't impact views from neighboring developments, as well as properties that are north of 586 and 588. So 594 Latoria is an 8-story building. 586 and 588 Latoria is a 6-story building. Step down, going down to the hillside and allowing for uninterrupted views. What I'll note here, the top left image is it would be facing west, so facing the entrance of the building. On the bottom left, the image there will be looking from the south from Latoria, or looking north from Latoria Road. So facing Latoria Road, that would be the viewpoint. And the other 2 images are looking down toward Latoria Road from the internal north road that would be created. So this is just an idea conceptually of what that building would look like. And you'd note that it looks conceptually similar to 594 Latoria to provide a homogeneous vision for the project extension. The sectional drawings and elevations are here, showing the contouring of the site as well as the proposal building into that contouring. And it serves a couple of purposes. One is showing how we can build into the elevation that's on the site currently, make use of the contours to reduce the amount of blasting necessary, obviously, which is a benefit to the community, to reduce the amount of total blasting required, as well as reducing the potential amount of retaining wall requirement, which is, my understanding and recollection is that 1.2 meters is sort of the maximum comfort level. So if we can keep them below, that is much better, obviously, for the community and for the site as well structurally. We have a draft civil servicing plan here. And what I want to highlight with this draft civil servicing plan are a couple of things. You'll notice on the left side of this plan, we have the north access road. And this is a north access road that extends from 594 Latoria through Veterans Memorial into 586, 588. And it also potentially could have the option to extend through 576 Latoria into 568 Latoria. As mentioned, 576 Latoria is a separate individual owner. We are coordinating with them to see what options are possible. There is on Latoria Road an approved access for 594 Latoria to have exit and entry in and out of Latoria Road. We are recommending and proposing to staff that we incorporate the parking structure access between 594 and 588, 586 Latoria, and push back that exit point onto Latoria Road to lessen the impact on the roundabout and to make a better traffic flow occur. Some of that is, that's still in discussion and consideration at this point, but that is a proposal that we've redesigned recently. I can't quite see it from here with the imaging, but there is stormwater treatment noted on this plan, the civil plan. Unfortunately, it's just a little bit too small for me to make out the points, but there are questions that we can have our civil engineers look to that. That is the rough presentation for 586 and 588. Continuing now to 568 Latoria. It is what I would call phase 3 in our Latoria Q project plan, 594 Latoria being phase 1, 586 and 588 phase 2, and with 576 being a separate and independent owner, 568 Latoria is the next potential phase. The location existing use again listed on this map, 568 Latoria, skipping one property in the middle. Existing A1 zoning, currently holding a 2-dwelling property. There's a suite and single family with an accessory garage. There is currently a creek running through the northeast end. The North Latoria Creek runs through the corner of this property. It is currently undisturbed, and you'll see how we've incorporated for that in our plan. A little brief on what our proposal is going in for on 568 Latoria. We are looking at 85 potential units on a 5-story building above 2 levels of underground parking, a 1.2 FSR, approximately 75,000 buildable square feet, with setbacks on the front and back of the site for both the Latoria Creek and North Latoria Creek. And we're looking at approximately a 10-meter setback being requested on the North Latoria Creek and the 30-meter setback on the South Creek, allowing for both the land dedication for enhancing the creek and moving the creek in future, as well as for the potential road widening that may occur on Latoria Road. Green space is going to be provided by both the setbacks and the green buffer to the project, both on potentially 576, depending on what occurs on that site, as well as 560 Latoria, which has the North Creek running through there as well. And it would, at this point, there may not be any development occurring on that, which would taper some of that density. There is a step down density from 586 and 588 Latoria. As mentioned, this is a 5-story as opposed to a 6-story. And the proposal with this project is to focus on the enhancement of Latoria Creek and North Latoria Creek with this design. The parking ratio of 1.38 is supported by the parking law in the OCP. This is a quick site section and elevation of the project. This project is still much more preliminary than 586 and 588, so we don't have as much to show you on it today in terms of renders, but you can see what the elevation and draft site plan looks like. And we'll get a bit more into the footprint of the building itself in a moment. I also have a board, if anybody was interested, that's got a Latoria facing drawn render. It looks quite nice. The proposal here is showing a potential north road that you might note. That north road is going to change. That will never cut through the creek. It will at a potential point, if we do get the chance to work with 576 Latoria, it would curve into the property and avoid the creek by the requirement. The exit and entry to this property would be focused on Latoria Road at this point in time. This falls under the hillside and shoreline segment of the OCP. It's compliant primarily in the enhancement of Latoria Creek and the protection of the North Latoria Creek. The protected creek areas will act as continued habitat for native species and provide green viewing space for the residents of those properties. The landscaping and landscape plans are still in design, but once those are presented, they will showcase and incorporate green space and walking paths. The proposal at 1.2 FSR is compliant with the density guidelines, which likes to maximize at a 1.2. The 5-story design, like I mentioned, is a tapering footprint from 586. So it keeps the views really intact between those parcels and steps down the height and density away from the neighborhood center, which is what is being visioned in that. The design is going to utilize the existing grade and build with the grade, minimizing unnecessary blasting. So very similar to the other properties, both at 594, 586, 568, 588 Latoria, as much as we can design and incorporate into the grade on these parcels to limit the amount of retaining wall requirements, and blasting will be a benefit to the community to not have to undergo substantial blasting. Again, the suite mix is going to accommodate multiple types of residents, families, as well as single occupants with mixes of 1 and 2 bedrooms. And last point here, like I mentioned, potential for the future use of the internal North Road, which spans all the way from 594 based on future activity with 576 Latoria. There may be the potential as well to extend the Latoria focused exit and push the exit point from 594 into Latoria Road as far down as possible, making it much more traffic wise, making the flows a lot better for any exit points going onto Latoria Road. The site survey plan is here. I'll give you a bit of an idea of where the setbacks look for both the north and south creeks, as well as where the building footprint will sit in relation to the site. The overall mixes are still an early preliminary design, so this is just a rough idea of how that will look in addition to the sections you saw earlier. The focus being on the fact that we do have the 10-meter buffer zone planned on the North Creek and incorporated the 30-meter land dedication for the South Road. That is, there we go. That's just a rough and very quick overview of the projects that we have undergoing at the moment. It's a lot to put into a small presentation, so I hope I've explained it as well as I can. I'll open it up to any questions, and I'm sure our professionals will be happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from council? Seeing none, any questions for Desiree? Seeing none, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilor Day, pardon me, sorry.
Sorry, my question is for staff. So I'm just wondering if staff is looking for feedback on the process, or we're not here for a decision tonight. What are you hoping to gain here?
So the purpose of tonight's presentations is just to provide council with context to let you know what the applications we have undergoing. One applicant has presented so far, and we have 2 other applicants for the other 2 rezonings that are here to present to you as well. So it's just for information purposes only, and each application will come forward when we're ready to advance it to a decision, probably after the visioning process. Phase 2 is complete, and once those options are prepared and council has selected one that they're ready to endorse, then we'll bring in the applications for rezoning, for decision on the rezoning.
Okay, and your report also states that staff have been involved with potential buyers of these properties. So I just want to ensure that are you providing services for development prior to receiving an application?
So our process is to run pre-application meeting once we have an applicant that's ready to submit a formal submission. So once they've developed a site plan and they've got a general sense of what they plan to do with the property, then they'll come in for a pre-application meeting just to ensure that they're on the right track and that they meet the land use designation policies in the official community plan.
So in some cases, staff have been involved over a number of years with different applications, and they have changed hands. Are you aware of the increased assessments that the entire area has received as a result of those inquiries?
No, staff are not aware of the assessments.
Okay, thank you. And when it comes to your process, and and you look at a parcel like this, is access considered? So some people want to develop and some people do not. How do you balance those competing needs?
So access is usually assessed by our engineering team. Currently, the document that's guiding access is the Transportation Master Plan, which just consolidating all the accesses along Latoria to Byzantin and providing an internal road connection. However, we recognize that there may be other opportunities that could be explored through the visioning process if this no longer is feasible. So we're still exploring, and that's part of the reason why we've been putting these applications on hold is the challenges around having multiple accesses off of Latoria and the desire to see that one access from the Byzantin Way extension.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Is it the next proponent? Well, no, I don't. Please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for having us this evening, and thank you staff and the public for attending this evening. My name is Rachel Sansom, and I am the agent for 546 Latoria Holdings. Joining me this evening are Todd Mazook, the owner of 546 Latoria Holdings, and also Brandon Powers, our civil engineer. And we're here to discuss the proposal for 546-554 Latoria Road, which is now an active rezoning application. This is not meant to be a deeply technical presentation. We'll get more into that when we do get in front of your land use committee, but this is rather an overview of how this project fits into the overall picture, potential picture for the Latoria corridor. However, if you do have technical questions, we're certainly happy to try to answer those for you this evening. So these particular properties are located pretty much directly across the existing Byzantin Way access onto Latoria and slightly to the west. The current existing uses are single family with multiple outbuildings, storage sheds, and other activities. There are no environmentally sensitive areas on these properties other than, of course, Latoria Creek, and they're sparsely treated. And certainly, as part of our application package, we do include environmental studies and arborist reports. Here's some photos of the existing properties, and you can see Latoria Creek, as well as some of the existing uses. Again, mostly cleared, compacted soils with some outbuildings and general residential uses. This is the proposed development. So this is a lovely rendering that was done quickly and done well, we think. So this shows the proposed 6-story building at Latoria with the townhouses behind. This rendering also shows a potential 5-laning of Latoria Road, which was contemplated by traffic studies that were done in the past. This is certainly not meant to represent what is going to be, but it does give a really good picture of how everything does fit. This also includes keeping the existing Latoria Creek alignment in place, which is fortunate, as well as the new access road that will cross right at Byzantin. So you can see the Byzantin intersection here. So a quick summary of this project. So we have 38 3- and 4-bedroom townhomes and 74 condominium units, 1- and 2-bedroom. There will be extensive landscaping in and around these buildings in accordance with the development permit requirements. We will be doing tree replacement at 2:1, hopefully on site, or cash in lieu if they can't be accommodated there. There's no parking variances requested at this time, and certainly we'll have lots of secure bicycle parking as required. The singular access Latoria Road has been contemplated, of course. And so we're trying to consolidate all of the properties to the east of Havenwood Creek to come out at this one access at Byzantin. This project and the whole area is actually centrally located between Latoria Walk and the Royal Bay neighborhood commercial areas. We're walking distance to lots of our wonderful natural parks, as well as Royal Bay and Royal Beach. We're walking distance to elementary schools, middle schools, and secondary schools. And most importantly, this is located along a frequent transit route. So there'll be wonderful bus service available to these developments. And of course, all construction must comply with BC Building Code standards for structural and seismic stability. As we all know, there's new code conditions coming up that are going to be even more stringent in this regard. So a site view of the property to the bottom of the page, you can see where a large section of land is being dedicated for that road widening, as well as to accommodate Latoria Creek. The two central roads, Road A will go to the west to provide access to 560 Latoria. And those are the townhouses, those gray buildings on the upper part of the page here. In section, so you can see how the condo building on the Latoria side of the property is actually a little bit lower than the 3-story townhouses above. So they actually step really nicely down the hillside. There will be some earthwork required, but we're really trying our best to work with the grades to eliminate unnecessary earthworks. And then there's a section east-west through the townhomes, so you can see how those are going to look as you come up the road. So as we talked about the Besanton extension, as well as internal sanitary and water services. So again, this was contemplated by earlier traffic studies, and the Besanton sort of intersection with Latoria was also contemplated to service development in this area of up to 900 units for this entire zone. So I understand, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, that this was part of the Royal Beach traffic study that spoke to all the possible improvements on Latoria to accommodate development. So our compliance with the official community plan for hillside and shoreline, certainly Latoria Creek enhancements will be a major part of this project. Looking forward to bringing this creek into a better standard with better environmental features, as well as removing invasive species. Storm drainage, of course, will be treated on site and retained to pre-development flows before it does enter any natural system. And all of these are going to be subject to the Riparian Area Protection Act when we go to do any work in and around these streams. And of course, you need permission to cross them and build bridges and culverts and all that stuff. So it's a housing choice and diversity, offering both the townhomes and the condominiums into the market. Our floor area ratio is less than 1.2, which was the maximum for the area. Views will not be impacted due to the way that the project steps down the terrain. And it will also include trailways and walkways throughout the development, and these will be included in the landscape plan. No large retaining walls are contemplated at this time. And again, we're sharing access with adjacent developments. So we're welcome to answer any questions you may have about this particular development.
Thanks very much, Rachel. Councilor Day.
Thanks. Rachel, I just wanted to ask about your access, the Besanton extension, as you've called it. That driveway is a shared driveway with the neighboring property who does not want to develop at this time. So how will you achieve that road dedication?
The road dedication would be partially dedicated so that it would be fully functional, but it wouldn't be built to the entire cross section. Certainly the owners of the adjacent property to the east are not obligated to develop, but at some point they may wish to, in which point they would build the remaining part of that road. That's fairly common practice in development when you have a road that straddles two different properties.
But they do actually have control of that driveway.
They do, yeah, certainly. Those owners are in no obligation to do anything at this time.
Does that not limit your development?
I understand that this development would have to be fully functional on its side of the property line, although the entire road cross section may not need to be built out at this time. So we'd certainly have to accommodate the traffic from this development before the other one developed.
And you mentioned that there was no environmental issues on this property, but I am aware of springs and peat that would be underneath the building that you've shown. So what would you do about those?
We do have an environmental report that has been submitted to staff as part of this particular rezoning application, and I don't believe they noted anything like that, but certainly full geotechnical studies are required before you can start building or planning your buildings. So those will all be done, and certainly the engineers can address any stability issues with the soils as necessary.
Thanks.
Any other? I just have a quick question for you, Rachel. How do you define frequent transit service? Because no one in BC Transit knows what that is. So I'm just trying to determine what your definition is.
Thank you, Your Worship. I got that information from the BC Transit website, and this is identified as a frequent transit use. So forgive me if I've got the same information as you do.
Okay. Yeah, we're just trying to determine it because Bill C 40, or Bill 44, 46, 47, and they've got that all over, and we're trying to figure out what that is, and no one has a definition right now at this point in time.
Though we would certainly look forward to helping define that if we can help.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, next proponent, please. You again?
It's me. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm still Rachel Sansom. This time, I'm happy to represent the owners of 532 and 538 Latoria Road, the Land Vision Group. Our owners, Carman and Harge, are also here this evening. We were going to bring our geotechnical engineer and biologist this evening, but we thought perhaps we'd save them also for the land use committee so we could delve into some more technical information at that time. So thank you very much for seeing us again. May look here familiar, but hopefully we've switched it up enough so it's interesting. So this particular property is a little further to the east. Again, it skips over 542, which we previously spoke of. So they are not at this point. 542 are not currently in for any development, but we will reference them throughout. So these are also residential uses at this time. A little lightly impacted lands here. The little house on the left actually is in front of Latoria Creek. It loops in behind it, where the other house to the right is up a little bit of a hill with a grass field in front. Again, we've got a couple of environmental sensitive areas here, of course, Latoria Creek being one. And then we do have a north-south drainage course, which bisects the site. This is man-made or redirected water course. It's still subject to the Riparian Area Protection Act to a lesser degree. This, of course, would be enhanced throughout the process of development and would become more of a feature for the development with invasives removed, natural plantings involved, and more fish-friendly habitat created. So this proposal is for 10 three-bedroom townhouses, as well as 2 5-story condominium buildings with 65 and 115 units respectively. Extensive landscaping in and around the property, and amenity areas with tree replacement as discussed at 2:1 in accordance with your tree bylaws. We're doing a lot of invasive species removal at the creek, and we also have some invasive species that are creeping up onto neighboring properties. So we hope that we'd be able to try and get rid of some of that too. We're not currently requesting any parking variances, and of course, secure bicycle parking is provided as well. Now, this too will have singular access to Latoria, and we'll get into that maybe a little bit later. Also centrally located between Latoria Walk and Royal Bay as far as commercial needs and schools, lots of wonderful natural parks all around, and frequent transit. And of course, again, speaking to the BC building codes with structural and seismic stability, as we're aware, there's a little bit of peat in the southeast corner of this property, which we're aware of, and we'll have our geotechs too when we get to a technical meeting. Here's our landscape plan proposed for the property. You can see heading to the west, that would be our access route out with a temporary access using the existing driveways until the other access is available. So our townhouse buildings are on the left-hand side, and you can see lots of room for tree replacement and landscaping, and then our condominium buildings on the right-hand side. So here's a bird's eye view of what the project might look like. That large green area in the front of the condominium buildings would actually have a lot more trees involved. I had a newer slide prepared, but we were a bit late getting that done. So all that area in front, there's 40 meters being dedicated to the city for road widening and for that Latoria Creek enhancement. So certainly this area will look forward to a lot more plantings in that zone. This is a view looking east at the condominium buildings with the townhouses to the left and the right. And this is looking north, looking at the townhouses with the condominium buildings on the right. And some sections through the hillside. So the upper slide is the townhouse site with the 3-story stepping down. The condominiums are 5 stories stepping down. And the east section shows a relationship between the townhouses and the condominium building. And you can see the arrows on the left-hand side depicting where those sections are taken through the site. So this is our future access. And we prepared this because staff said, well, how are the roads going to work in the long term? So again, 542 is certainly not under any obligation to provide road access to either of these projects. However, we were asked to try to put pieces of the puzzle together. So if they did come and make a proposal, that everything would fit together. So that's really what this exercise is about. So you can see that that red road would be the Pleasanton extension. And again, this is all subject to staff approval. They haven't really gotten into this, nor do I have detailed design. And then the blue roads would be private roads with rights of way over them, so other people could use them, but they would be owned privately by those adjacent stratas. And then the little orange would be the temporary access for this using the existing driveways. So this would be used for construction access and to a point, again, working with engineering staff, where we'd be allowed to use this for access until the main access at Pleasanton was available. We also, we did get a question about Elizabeth Ann access, and we understood from the neighborhood that that access point there was not desirable. However, we can still look into that further. Our servicing concept for the long term, of course, all the services going out to Pleasanton and ultimately connecting to Latoria. We've also had interest from our neighbors to the north and to the east about providing service connections for the sewer through there. And we'd be able to run those through the properties, again, working with staff to make sure that they're technically correct. Temporarily, though, until access through 542 is available, we can run our services down to Latoria through the existing driveways and rights of way. And again, compliance with the official community plan. Spending a lot of time enhancing Latoria Creek as required under the supervision of our environmental biologist and in accordance with provincial regulation. Storm drainage is to be treated on site, certainly during construction as well. Erosion and sediment control is very important. We're supporting different types of housing, diversity with townhouses in condominiums. Our floor area ratio less than 1.2 to 1. And the views are not impacted. We did meet with our neighbors to the north and looked at how these condos would look from their properties. And they would, I think you can see 2 or 3 stories. So they'll certainly see the buildings, but they won't be that impactful to their views of that area. We're not anticipating any large retaining walls. And again, access shared with adjacent development if and when they're ready to come aboard. And on these 2 sites, we have minimal blasting expected. And we're here to answer questions for you on this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Open the floor. Start with Councillor Jordison.
Hi, Rachel. I just had a question. I guess it's pretty much for all of you. I'm just wondering, well, in your diagram here, I guess the biggest thing here is the sheer volume of the density that's going to be in that area, and then it all coming out onto Latoria Road, which is it looks like the plan right now. But I'm just wondering if any of the, and I don't know what the landscape is like, so bear with me, but have any of the properties at the back of these properties been talked to see if roads can go through there? Like if there was purchased properties behind them to see if there's a connection for a roadway back there?
Thank you. Through the mayor, so you're talking about going up to Bunker with a road?
Is it Bunker that backs onto it?
Bunker's the next road up. There's a couple of smaller cul-de-sacs, and then
Yeah, and I don't know what the landscape is like. So I
yeah, I
don't know
think
if it's like-
topographically it would be a bit of a distance between there. Elizabeth Ann would be the closest one, and it's a downhill that connects into this. But again, in speaking to those residents, I don't know that they were specifically keen on the connection, but
yeah. Okay, no, and I think it's definitely going to make the area look full and useful. Like it's very bare there right now, and older properties and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it's good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Jensen.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Along the same lines, I couldn't quite tell from the diagram there, and then I saw your last slide there. Is there the potential for a connection through eastward through to Wishart Road there, midway through your lot?
No, there's properties to the east, sorry, through the mayor, properties to the east that are not part of this conglomerate of lands. I don't believe there's any desire to develop those particular ones. And I understand that going west is not favorable either because of the Havermore Creek would have to be crossed as well. So we're trying to limit our creek crossings with these activities.
Gotcha. And then 532, is that the one property that is R1?
Through the way, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Groom? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to ask for Elizabeth Ann Crescent, your northeast corner. And right now it doesn't show any particular connection. It looks like there's maybe some land. I don't know if it's a bit of, if that's that water course you made reference to or not. Could you speak perhaps a little bit to the treatment between your development and the Elizabeth Ann Crescent? One of the public events, I spoke to some of the residents who seem to be interested in maintaining a no break there, like,
Yeah.
or a separation there rather than a flow through. But anyway, I didn't know if you had, I know it's early plan time, but.
No, certainly, through the mayor, happy to respond. So I believe there's a park at the end of Elizabeth Ann as well that separates those southerly buildings from the property. And we have a fairly generous setback between the condominium building and the end of Elizabeth Ann Road. Some of the conversations I had, people were concerned about people parking on Elizabeth Ann and cutting through, trying to limit pedestrian linkages. So that's another technical conversation to have with staff and that committee level to see how we want to treat that. But certainly we'll be providing significant landscaping there. The little water course that runs north-south actually winds up to the properties to the north as well. So there'll be another riparian buffer in that area.
Cool. Very good. Thank you. Councillor Olson.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you for the presentation. I think, sorry, did you say the riparian buffer was in that top corner, close to Elizabeth Ann?
Yes, again, through
On
the mayor,
532?
the north-south man-made water course, so it must have been a natural water course at one point, but right now it's a ditch that literally runs between the two property lines for these. And then when it gets to the northerly properties, it kind of hangs a right and curls up into the backyard of our neighbor. And so I think it dead ends there, but it does collect water from that neighborhood. And certainly we are not going to change that regime in any way. We can't block it or drain it and upset that ecology of that area too. So we'll be working closely with our engineers and biologists to ensure that we don't do any damage to that area.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's tricky because when looking at all of these potential development sites, we're looking at 672 units potentially going in that Latoria corridor. And until we have some improvements made, it just seems to me that that would have been a natural connection to Elizabeth Ann. But thank you. It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Councillor Day, second time.
Thanks. I think that the grades in this area are not well understood. It is a very steeply sloping area, and this is the south side of Triangle Mountain, where a great deal of drainage is occurring. So that water course is quite important, and I have concerns about because it's been R1 with a few houses there previously, adding these large roofs in the area is going to increase the amount of water that's being concentrated in different areas. And that is like an ongoing issue in the area. So what are you doing to address the increase in the water that is now going through there? And there's also not just a small amount of peat, a huge amount of peat under these properties. And I have doubts as to how well that can support big buildings. It is, in fact, a floodplain, and it moderates the impacts of those waters. So I'm very concerned about the impacts for North Latoria Creek, for Latoria Creek, and for the receiving lands to the south and to the east of there.
Thank you very much. And again, through the mayor, if I may, maybe some engineers in the audience can jump in if I get this wrong, but Colwood has some very robust stormwater management policies. So essentially, we have to look at the behavior of stormwater and how it arrives on the site and dissipates, including the catchment areas, and not just these properties, but the properties all around. We cannot change that. So we have to figure out how to detain it and how to manage it on site so that we mimic pre-development flows. And this is up to now the 1 in 200 year rainfall event. So it's pretty serious stuff. You know, we cannot cause any nuisance downstream. We cannot cause erosion. We're also, because these are natural water courses, we have to work closely with our biologists who are being watched by the province to make sure that we're not doing any harm to fish and fish habitat at the same time. So, you know, it's a lot of work for our engineers, and it's a lot of diligence on behalf of staff to make sure that we're all doing our jobs and we're not having that sort of impact on the environment and the stormwater management. So essentially, you shouldn't see any difference standing downstream because we've done our homework. We've made sure we've got the right kind of surfaces. We have storage on site, and we're managing the rainwater that does fall in this area. Briefly on the geotechnical aspect, and when we do get to committee level, I'll bring our geotechnical engineer with us. We have done test pits, and I believe the peat depths are known, and there is a strategy for how to build buildings on that site. But again, I didn't bring that sort of depth of technical material here today, but certainly the owners are aware, and their team of experts is working on that.
Would certainly like to see that, because it's my understanding that some of those core samples didn't come out really as cores. They're pretty sloopy because this is a problematic area in terms of the depth of the peat. In fact, to my understanding, I don't think they found the bottom of the peat.
Thank you. And again, through the mayor, we'll make sure that our experts are here to answer those questions when we do get to the technical portion of the analysis of these projects. But certainly it is something the owners are very aware of. You know, that's part of your due diligence when you're purchasing properties. You want to make sure that you are able to construct what you like. So.
Thanks very much. Councilor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, thanks, Rachel, but I have questions for staff, if through the chair, if we can staff forward. I preface that first, though, by certainly thanking everybody who's come forward to present this evening. I think it's helpful to see it all in one big picture. You know, the development community's interest in investing in Colwood is always appreciated. I know there's some developers in the crowd who've, you know, have a proven track record of successful projects, and certainly appreciate your desire to contribute to the growth of our community. I am, though, when looking at this, trying to, you know, endeavor to exercise some sagacity here to the relationship between what we're seeing and the OCP. There's some incongruity there that I find a little concerning. If I can summarize from west to east, from VMP towards Royal Bay, we're presented with projects of 8 stories, 6 stories, 5 stories, 6-story in townhomes, and 2 5-story condos with townhomes. And when I look at the OCP, the definition for neighborhood, hillside, and shoreline, it's comprised of 2 policies, policy 7220 and 7221. 7220 regarding uses identifies the uses for that area: single family residential, secondary suites, coach houses, ground oriented multi-unit residential, limited commercial mixed use, and low rise multi-unit residential in very limited situations. So Desiree, I'm looking to understand, you know, the staff interpretation of the OCP in relation to that area. When I see, you know, 8-story, 6-story, 5-story, I don't see ground-oriented small or multi-unit residential. I don't consider that low-rise multi-unit residential in very limited situations. I mean, it seems, you know, really that's not what the OCP dictates for that area. So again, this is not a slight against the developers that are here. I think they're going to build what they can build, but I have to ask those questions on behalf of the community. Are we looking at the same OCP here?
Through the chair. Yes, so the OCP does permit up to 6 stories in very limited situations, and I think that's part of what the applicants are presenting tonight is the ecological benefit would be the creek restoration and enhancement project along Latoria Creek. Staff do feel that this is partly why a new OCP vision informed by stakeholders in the public and by councils may be necessary, because the land take along the frontage of Latoria in order to protect that creek and to potentially consider the expansion of Latoria Road is very great, and so we need to consider perhaps other options outside of the what's permitted in the OCP, and we're consulting with the public and other stakeholders to determine what that could be. And based off of the early engagement that we've conducted in under phase 1 of the visioning project, we have heard that 6 stories residents would be okay as long as it is under 6 stories and nothing above. But in terms of the relationship between the existing OCP land use designation and the proposals that are before you tonight, it is hard. We leave it up to council to make that decision if this is one of those cases where it's a very limited situation and the applicant has demonstrated to you that the ecological and environmental benefits have been achieved. That's kind of open to interpretation. It is, in terms of what the OCP does permit, though, attached housing up to 3 stories is a definite, 6 stories is a maybe, and for council's consideration.
Okay, so for clarity, then we would define 6 stories and lower as low-rise multi-unit residential. That's the staff definition.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Don't run away. I have a question for you. Under these new designation of this rezoning, what's the OCP requirement for a green space? What percentage of the land?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's 40%
Right,
retained.
okay, so just I wanted to confirm that. So, just in my own, how I look at this right now, 678 new doors, potentially more if other land is sold. I did hear one of the proponents mention a daycare facility in his development, which is great. But with the potential people that are going to be moving here, a lot of families, it'd be kind of nice to see playground for kids, another amenity, outdoor amenity. So that's something I'd like you to keep in mind when you're doing this. I'm not, we're early in the stage here, and it'd be kind of nice to see them all band together and put a playground area for this area. So I just thought I'd point that out. Thank you very much. And Mr. Day, would you like to speak now?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight's agenda was not available to the public until last Tuesday. Currently, there are 3 applications for rezoning on Latoria Road. One of the applications was posted by the city last Friday. 2 applications, 532, 538, and 546, 554 Latoria, are dead in the water, as both require the Besanton extension to the north of Latoria Road. This cannot be done without an agreement from 542 Latoria Road, as the property shares a driveway with 554 Latoria Road. Minister approval would also be required for the Besanton extension. 532, 538, and 546, 554 Latoria have only a small portion of their lots that are not in the Latoria Creek floodplain. And it's fairly obvious where the floodplain is, because the houses are built where it is not the floodplain. That's why all that peat is out there, and it does flood. 542 Latoria would not benefit from the Besanton extension. Rezoning for 542 Latoria would result in the destruction of a nice house and would leave little land that is not in the Latoria Creek floodplain. All of the land that is requesting rezoning was purchased cheap, as the property holds little development potential. 586, 588 Latoria require access through 594 Latoria. Access to 594 Latoria is going to be a horror show due to the offset with the Brookside BMP intersection and its close proximity to the $7.8 million roundabout. Only got 2 paragraphs. 568 Latoria sold on September 21st, 2022 for $2.885 million, more than 3 times its 2022 tax assessment value. The property has no opportunity to develop as its only access is a driveway onto Latoria Road. Neither neighbor has a plan for development. 568 Latoria does not have an application for rezoning yet, but it's being portrayed as a rezoning application. The solution to the developer-driven transportation plan is to stop pouring DCCs into a pipe dream of widening the Latoria Road and focus on Machosen Road as the solution to a very poor master transportation plan. The city should stop restricting Machosen Road with so-called improvements and obtain the land required for a left turn lane on Machosen Road at the Ellendale development and connect to VMP. Thank you. I'll answer any questions if.
No. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, another member of the public is asked to speak as well.
Sure, okay, please.
Carol Brown with Scenic. I just wanted to ask council that and staff that any consideration of rezoning of the North Latoria consider the effects on Havenwood Creek and Latoria Creek with the interests of that important riparian area and ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? That's it. Oh.
There's a lot going through my head, and I think you mentioned, Councillor Olson, 672 units. That's with 2 properties not being developed. There's another word that starts with Q that I'm reminded of, and I think it's quagmire. Coming on to Latoria Road from Byzantin is challenging as it is now. So, you know, from a traffic point of view, I just don't understand how this is possible. We have congestion now. I do understand there's an infrastructure committee that's been appointed. I would, suggest it would be wise to wait until that committee gets up and running before any rezoning. The OCP, it's why we moved here, and to change it so significantly in such a short time is going to impact all of the residents. And I understand that Premier Eby wants us to accelerate housing, but I think we need to accelerate affordable housing. I didn't hear that word once in any of the presentations. I see empty units on Latoria Road that I understand are renting for $2,400 a month. It's not affordable. There was a development rezoning application right next to Havenwood Park a few years ago, very controversial. It narrowly passed, and the trees came down immediately, and it's still sitting empty. So I don't follow the development portfolio close enough to understand what's going on, but I know that climate change requires natural solutions, and that's trees, and that's peat. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to. Okay, sure. Push a button there. That's perfect.
Steve Mandy, 498 Byzantin Way. I'm going to echo what Karen had just said. It's hard enough to currently make a left and right hand turn onto Latoria from Byzantin. You yourself know this, Mr. Mayor, because you live there as well. Something has to be done. Ma'am, for your plan, how would that look?
Yep, yep. Yeah, it's.
Fair enough, fair enough. These are my questions. How would it work? It currently doesn't work the way it is. Speed on Latoria, Wishart, and Veteran Memorial is out of control. I've asked the council via email and phone calls and in person down at the beach for a traffic study to be done. And I got a big fat 0 which turn, it's coming. How long do I have to wait before someone actually gets hit when people are racing their kids to school? Tree replacement plan. In some of the presentations, it says a ratio of 2 to 1 or cash in kind. Where does that cash in kind go? Because there's no way you're going to fit 2 to 1 ratio of trees back on those properties when you're filling it full of high density apartments. Who benefits from that cash? Does it get put back into the fire department, which is already overrun? We need another fire department in Colwood. Green roofs. Maybe that's a strategy to help with the water runoff on these large buildings if they do get approved. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we will move on the agenda. Councilor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, question for staff. One of the items, and I had it written down and missed it in my first go around. During the public consultation here at City Hall, there were a number of the landowners and others there. There was a lot of interest expressed in an access road to come in behind these properties off VMP or off Wishart to alleviate the direct access to Latoria Road. I found that of interest myself because to me, I agree with the speaker who said, you know, it's nonsensical to open up a high density project's access point mere meters from a brand new roundabout. It doesn't seem logical at all. And we've heard from others about the challenges with Besanton, but as I said, some of the landowners and some of the residents were particularly interested in more of a like a laneway access around the rear of these lots. And I wondered if there's someone from staff, you know, Mr. Mayor, through the chair, if they could respond to where, if at all, there's planning on that as part of the process.
The chair recognized Mr. John.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councilor Ward. It is contemplated, or it had been looked at previously by staff to make that connection either from VMP over to Bunker or VMP over to Elizabeth Ann. There's some significant issues there with regards to grades. I'm not completely familiar with that area, but it does slope incredibly fast from the top of the properties downwards. So you'd have massive retaining walls. Certainly there's geological problems with regards to structural stability in there as well. So I would think it's possible, but not probable. You've got 2 creek crossings that you'd have to do with the roadway. So I think ultimately your solution is to come out onto Besanton and try to do some kind of common road for as many of those properties as you can without crossing the creek. Bring those other properties on the east side of the or west side of the creek out to VMP where you can. So you limit, it's an arterial road, Latoria, so we'd like to limit the accesses. There's a lot of coordination involved in that. I would think that that coordination would be sometime, and at the end of the day, you're probably, it's not contemplated now and it's not a DCC project, but you're probably looking at a traffic signal in Zan if you do run all these units that way. All right.
Thanks, John. It is 8:03 right now. I'm just going to take a health break so if I can have everyone back in their seats at 8:08, please. Thank you very much. Yep. Are we ready, Mars? Okay, so we'll get on to item 9.2, which is the 2023 BC Active Transportation Grant. Carolyn Richmond, please introduce.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. You have a report before you regarding an application made by the city to the BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant Program. This application is to support the Whale and Wilford Roads intersection reconstruction, which was presented to Council on November 14th Council meeting. The BC Active Transportation Grant provides cost sharing for projects like this and requires a resolution by Council. You will find in the report an overview and costs for this project, as well as details about the Council resolution requirements for this grant application. Staff have provided a recommended motion that meets the provincial criteria. So we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. Nice and brief. It was pretty self-explanatory, actually. I just have one quick question myself personally, and I'll look for a motion on the floor. But actually, I'm gonna. It's towards you, Jen Hepting, and that is, I know it's a little bit. Our funding portion is you're proposing using the Sustainable Infrastructure Reserve Fund. So is there? Obviously, there's enough to fund this right now. Like I don't even know what's in it right now. What's our funding like in that particular fund?
Certainly a great question. So this was previously approved. There absolutely is sufficient funding. This project is for the reconstruction of this intersection, which is why it would be considered an eligible expenditure.
Okay, so do we still have some stuff left? Because can that fund be, I guess where I'm trying to get at right now, it's a different topic altogether, but I know we were talking about doing other things for the overpass bridge right now, right? So, and I think it could be used towards that. So I was just wondering if, what was left in that fund right now.
Absolutely. We have the exact dollar amount that was previously published at the Q2 update. Okay. The third quarter update will be covered.
That included this number then? Obviously.
Yes.
Perfect. That's
yes.
all I wanted to know.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will highlight it at the third quarter update because I can't think of it off the top of my mind.
Any other questions that we have around the table? I'll just ask someone. Whoops, lots of questions. Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Worship. No questions here. I was just gonna put forward the staff recommendation. Anytime it involves a grant, that's usually a no-brainer. Thank you.
Second. Councillor Ward, discussion. Oh, Councillor Day, you're in.
Thank you. I just wanted to talk, when I looked at the actual diagram for the works, sorry, I've lost my place now. It shows stamped concrete for the sidewalk treatments in some places. Oh no, it's not. It was the picture of the design drawing that showed. Anyways, I just wanted to speak to the accessibility issues with regards to the smoother the surface and the smoother the transitions, the better. And there's quite a difference was noted when we referred sidewalk standards to the Intermunicipal Advisory Committee on Disability Issues some years back. And there is noted sometimes stamped concrete has really deep grooves and sometimes they're not so deep. And I was just concerned as to how that would impact this proposal. Yes. Yep, that's the one.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not quite clear on the question, but I think what you want to know is there going to be stamped concrete in the intersection? And we actually brought this project to the Active Transportation Committee. We had that same discussion and that same point was brought up. And we're currently working with design changes. This design has not been to 100%. We're still working on the design itself, but we are close. And one of the things we are going to do is change that stamped concrete to a brushed concrete, which is typical like a sidewalk. So we want the structural integrity of concrete because some of the areas might actually be subjected to vehicle traffic. But certainly we'll color it and change it to a brushed to respond to that concern.
That's awesome. It makes a huge difference to people who wheel the amount of vibration that you feel through your chair. I also noted that you're moving back bollards and that you have some planting areas there still. And I think that's good because planting areas are a softer edge that can prevent people from sliding off a sidewalk when it's slippery or wet.
It's one of those rare win-wins because brushed concrete is a little cheaper than a stamped concrete, so we'll save a couple of dollars as well.
Thank you. Councillor Jensen?
Yeah, thank you. Just in response to Councillor Day, as the chair of the Active Transportation Committee, we did pick up on that. It was discussed at length. And it was intentional in this particular context because with the realignment of the intersection, you'll notice at the top of the diagram there, it's that interface area between the edge of the sidewalk and the roadway where it's felt that some of the tractor trailers making that turn would encroach. So it was intended to be like a warning zone rumble kind of patch. But we suggested that they look at alternatives and that was duly noted. So I don't think anyone's married to the stamped concrete is the point. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Unanimous. Motion approved. Okay, gonna go on to 9.3, the Pioneer Cemetery and St. John Cemetery Management. Marcy Lalonde to introduce.
Thank you, Your Worship. So city staff have been approached by a citizen that would like to provide funding and materials to create entrance signs to both Pioneer and St. John's Cemetery. Mr. Ron Aubrey is here tonight, and he's available if council has any questions, and he would like to address you for a couple minutes if you wouldn't mind. So staff are seeking direction from council as they're the Board of Cemetery of Trustees for both the cemeteries, and to provide direction allowing staff to work with Mr. Aubrey to create the signage. In addition, staff would like to see seek council's approval to create cemetery management plans for both cemeteries. Cemetery plans will provide for treatment, maintenance, landscape issues, and priorities for the cemeteries by providing regulation, management, and maintenance. The cemeteries, including St. John's Church, have been designated as heritage sites by council. The city has received interest from community members indicating their wish to volunteer with maintaining the grave sites and the grounds. So the proposed project will provide unique opportunity for Colwood to partner with descendants of Colwood families connected to Pioneer Cemetery, raise awareness, and provide historical background for the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Aubrey, would you like to address the council, sir? Yep. Oh, you had it. There we go.
Thank you. I'm here not asking for money, but giving you some. That's a different scenario, isn't it? Okay. The first and both your past mayor and Mayor Doug, I'll call you Mayor Doug, have met with them to see about what is the Pioneer Cemetery to Colwood. Because up till now, most people don't even know it exists. So I'm an old fart. This white shit tells you. But my families are pioneers. And Nana Murray pioneered, and she homesteaded in 1918 in Royal Bay. She owned 100 acres of it. So we're watching Royal Bay real carefully. Anyways, I've been told that you want the Pioneer Cemetery to stand up and be counted And staff, thanks to Mayor Doug, have stepped up. I'd like to say to John Russell, he saved Colwood on this project because I was ready to walk. And he said, you know what, staff are interested. And so he got staff moving forward, working with me, and we have a plan. So if you give us the go ahead tonight, we're going to start. And when we're finished, you are going to be surprised because the gentleman that's going to be working with me is the past principal of Belmont High. And what he does with wood, he's an artist. And when he's finished, it's going to be impressive. So that's number one. And I'm going to challenge number two, because you just heard from your staff person about other people want to volunteer to fix up the grave sites. All right. They are in poor disrepair. I'm going to challenge you. All right. I'm going to put $5,000 as a donation to that project for this year. I'm willing to put more money into it for next year. But what I put in, Colwood match me, minimum, so that those cemetery grave sites can get put into a repair that you can be proud of. Because a lot of those volunteers are people that are pioneers that are in that community. There's no family members left. So somebody's got to step up and do it. All right. My mother-in-law, Dola Akers, with the Women's Institute, they turned in good faith the Pioneer Cemetery over to Colwood. I'm stepping up on their behalf and the past pioneers to let's get this thing up to a standard. And staff have outstanding ideas, but we just do one step at a time. So one step is my project, or the project we're trying to put forward. The second project will be some spin-off to do the grave sites, but there will be more. You haven't seen the end of me yet. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. And admit it, Ron, you couldn't pronounce my last name again. See what I mean? Yeah. I sound like some kind of Polish sausage or something. Thanks, Ron. That's fantastic. Councillor Olson.
Hello, Mr. Aubrey. I just wanted to say, as the council rep on the Heritage Commission, admittedly, I didn't know a lot of the history. And I did take the time to kind of go through the history of both of the cemeteries. And it was quite fascinating to learn of all the families. And I did spend a couple of hours, and it does connect you to that property. And this is different, having somebody come to the table and offer money to look after this particular property. And I think it's fantastic. And I'm grateful that you've come forward and that you put so much passion into the site. And I just wanted to thank you. And I would more than certainly like to move the staff recommendation that we work with Mr. Aubrey on bringing this vision to life. So I just wanted to thank you personally for that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Councillor Ward, are you seconding it then? Okay, and I'll let you speak to it then.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, no, Councillor Olson, I think we're on the same path there. Mr. Aubrey, thank you. History matters. I don't want to be long-winded about it. I appreciate you coming forward. There's a lot of stories that may or may never get told from folks that are there, but I think it's up to council and community to like you said, there's relatives that have come and gone, and now it falls to us to take care of it. So I appreciate your willingness to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. And I think now the pressure's on us to do the same. So yeah, happy to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Day.
Thanks. Just real quick, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming forward. I do know a bit about the history because Dola and others helped me to learn and understand. I did quite a bit of time working there, but I also want to acknowledge John Russell for stepping up to the plate and supporting our citizens to come forward. This is real special thing to have happen, and looking forward to where we can go from here.
Thanks very much. Gonna, at this point, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed to the motion? Seeing none, motion is approved. Thank you very much, Ron. And JR, thank you very much. And Marcy, thank you for bringing us to the table. Did some work there. Yeah, excellent. Thanks very much. Move on to 9.4, Growing Communities Fund Update. Jen.
So we do have a brief update prepared for you tonight. And just on the last question regarding the reserve fund balances, so there is approximately $3.1 million projected for the Sustainable Infrastructure Reserve Fund that will support that last grant that council just endorsed the application on. And so with that, let's dive into a different grant. So the Growing Communities Fund grant, we were last before you in June of this year. Staff presented a number of current priorities of this council where this grant could be utilized. The conversation that we had at that time really led itself to, you know, let's take this and do a little bit of a deeper dive with council. And so from there, staff facilitated a survey on seeking, you know, where this council would direct spend of this grant between 8 broad funding areas. And so the intention tonight really is to just highlight the outcome of that survey and see if there is any specific direction that this council wishes to give. In addition to the survey that staff administered, the Government Finance Officers Association of BC also administered a survey of municipalities within the province. So about 50% of municipalities responded to their survey. I appreciate this is a little difficult to understand, but we did include this information within the staff report. One area to note is that of the municipalities that responded, 50% indicated that they would be utilizing this grant to support recreation-related amenities within their communities. So this is just an additional piece of information that council may wish to consider as we determine where we will be allocating our grant. So the survey, as you know, that went out, it asked a series of questions. I believe there were 7 questions in total. The first was asking council to rank between 1 and 8 how you would prioritize the allocation of this grant between 8 broad funding areas. Those areas being facilities, utilities, well-being, climate action, debt avoidance, roadway improvements, parks acquisitions, and parks improvements. Report before you provides further detail on the outcome. Overall, we had 3 areas that tied kind of for the top allocation, which was that spend in the area of facilities, specifically the RCMP detachment facility, spend in the area of community well-being, and then spend supporting city utilities. That said, when you look at the overall average, I mean, there was no clear area where, you know, council was unanimous in terms of a number 1 priority. From there, we asked specific questions and highlighted a number of projects. So projects that were either previously endorsed through master plans or through the city's financial plan. So within the area of facilities, council had the opportunity to rank utilizing this funding for the RCMP detachment expansion project, the public works facility project, or the multi-purpose recreation facility that's proposed in the city's Parks and Rec master plan. Within those rankings, it was the RCMP detachment facility that received the most support from council in terms of the survey. The staff report that's before you does highlight some of the implications of that initiative, and we'll get to that on a later item of business tonight. That specifically is This is a facility that is owned by 3 municipalities. We have since spoken with the other 2 municipalities. They do not intend to utilize the Growing Communities grant to support the detachment. That is why it was not lifted up as one of the areas, recommended areas to utilize this grant within the staff report. However, community well-being ranked high, and so there are a number of recreation related spends that are included within the report where this grant could be utilized. As well, improved access to healthcare. We heard a little bit about that with the mayor's opening remarks tonight. We don't currently have explicit initiatives within existing plans, existing financial plans, but should this council wish to direct some or all of the grant spend in that area, we will take that direction and return to council with options. So the report before you highlights a number of options. I do want to remind this council, I mean, any direction that we receive tonight will be incorporated into the draft financial plan that will be published late next month, and we will start those budget deliberations in January. Should we not receive any further direction tonight, as we update and refine our capital plans, we will highlight throughout budget deliberations potential areas where this grant could be utilized. So pleased to turn it over for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Jen. That's great summary on that. Councillor Day, would you like to start off the questions?
Yeah, so I'm just curious, I felt like reading this, we needed to make a decision, and I feel a little bit unready, I guess, because where I think I mean, facilities, well-being, and climate all came out on top. And in my mind, I think there's likely a project that would fit all 3 of those categories. I also feel that it's important for us to use this money to do things that would be more difficult to achieve through any other funding stream. All of the proposed options are good options, but I feel like there's an opportunity to do something that generally is much more difficult for us to do with this funding. And for me, there's been a few initiatives that I've heard recently that fit the bill. One is the Royal Bay recreation potential and I know when we talk about recreation, we often get very focused on fields or sporting facilities per se, but recreation has come to do a lot of things for us, and we do have an update coming from Wishaw Parks and Rec. I believe it's at our next council meeting where we've reached out to Wishaw Parks and Rec about Royal Bay specifically, so we kind of are just a little ahead of having that information. But we also heard from the Village Initiative and the need for spaces for the professionals to use to support youth. So that is well-being, and that is also the youth. And in terms of having a facility that would be supportive of healthcare, we've also talked about that, and we're not quite there yet on realizing that vision. So do we need to have a hard and fast tonight, or can we wait till we get some more information?
Great question through the mayor. No, we don't need a hard and fast tonight. So as you know, we've received this grant funding. We have 5 years to spend the grant funding. My advice would be that this council makes a decision in the near term. 6 months would be incredibly helpful. Any direction we receive tonight, you'll see that with the publication of the draft financial plan that's coming up inside of the next few weeks. Should we not receive any direction tonight, that is absolutely okay as we progress through budget deliberations that support our 24 to 28 financial plan, we will continue to highlight and will seek direction as we continue. So to directly answer, no, we don't need an answer tonight. I have spoken with CFOs for other municipalities. They have not explicitly brought this item forward for their council's consideration. Rather, they are integrating the potential spend into their budget deliberations and seeking direction that way. The province, the initial information that we received from the province reminded us we have 5 years to spend this grant. They are looking for the city's commitment on how we're spending it in 2023, which was why we have brought forward a couple of items of business on this in June and then again tonight.
So it sounds like we have to make the decision before the end of the year then.
I have spoken with a number of municipalities that are not explicitly
Answer
making
my
that
question.
decision. They are integrating that decision into their
But I
budget
thought it was provincial.
deliberations.
I thought when I read the original letter from the province, it said we had to indicate how,
I think that's the previous
We were-
item, Mr. Mayor.
what's that?
The previous grant that we just looked at.
No, it was
No,
this, it was this
No,
grant.
this grant, it absolutely did indicate, and it, again, my advice is we do make a decision on how we are spending this grant. We want to ensure that we get it spent within 5 years. We want to ensure that it is incorporated into the city's financial plan. We are drafting our capital budget to support the upcoming financial plan right now, and we are publishing that before year end to support. We start deliberations January 9th this year. So you will see integration of this, but if we don't have explicit direction tonight, it will be more commentary and we will look to formalize that direction during budget deliberations.
So I just wanted to recommend that we look at our climate because that's something that we've identified as a very high priority for us, and we don't have funding that we easily allocate to it.
Thank you. Councillor Jensen?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm perfectly prepared to make a decision on a focus for these funds this evening. We've heard many of these things come before us, and I mean, this is a good news story. Let's assign these money, and I'm sure down the road, if something changes in the following years, we could reassign it in some form or another. We'll probably not without too much difficulty, but for me, I'll throw my 2 cents worth. I agree. Let's do something that we wouldn't normally, or we would be a little more difficult to do. I'm all in favor of the supporting recreation down at the new Royal Bay. That's a generational opportunity for us there to perhaps add to the amenities for the south side of Royal Bay. That's a no-brainer. The other part is the Public Works facility. We've heard detailed presentations on that, and I think it's time that we consider moving that forward. That is a matter of significant safety for our community in times of challenging circumstances, whether it be a natural disaster or what have you. I did have a question, Jen. I noticed there's nothing on there about supporting improvements at West Shore Parks and Rec. I'm assuming that it's the same multi-owner scenario that makes it a little more complex.
Great question. Should this council wish for us to explore if there are areas of spend for West Shore Parks and Rec, we absolutely can. But yes, I do lift that up for consideration. Anytime there's, multiple jurisdictions that are responsible.
I don't want to overcomplicate this because I'm doubtful that we would see congruity with the owners if we picked a project there. So with that knowledge, I wholeheartedly support the improvements to the Public Works facility and the Royal Bay Rec Center. I love the idea of the medical facility, Your Worship, but we haven't had a detailed presentation like we have from with regard to the Public Works facility. So I just don't have enough to sort of work with in that regard. Thank you.
Councillor Jordison?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my comments about this are just that I think that I love the idea of getting the multi-purpose recreation facility up and going, but I'm I'm unclear what the healthcare is going to look like at this point. But I see that we could. I think that the recreational facility, the healthcare, and the youth can all combine into one in some way, and we can accomplish more in that goal. And hopefully, when we get to the RCMP discussion, we give that to the CRD, and then we can look at options of getting our public works facility up and going with our own loan or what have you to get that with other money, I guess is what I'm saying. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Councilor Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Jordison, I think you're right on the money there, as were you, Councilor Jansen. For me, I see an opportunity with this to start moving on it. I also think there's a bit of a game of Tetris or a snowball effect here if we were to explore. Certainly what I'm in favor of would be recreation amenities and facility in Royal Bay, because there's other potential partners that could bring money to the table. And we've had preliminary meetings with some of them, like JDF Soccer, potentially, much like they did with the Royal Bay Turf Field, could contribute funding towards lights, towards this facility. Triangle Baseball Association has expressed an interest in being at the table and contributing. You know, both of these community groups could be grant eligible and potentially add more and layer on more. And I see an opportunity for us to use this money in a way that gives back to Colwood. You know, taxpayers, myself included, are always griping about spending more and not seeing return. And here's an opportunity to deliver something, and something that puts Colwood on the map regionally. I mean, it's very rare that you get the chance to develop from scratch a community amenity, a park like this that can be really anywhere from fairly mediocre to a true destination, one where you can draw in tournaments. You could have the Victoria Highlanders relocate there. They've expressed interest. I mean, there's a lot on the table here that, you know, that is easy to overlook when you're presented with a large list. So we really have the opportunity to do something significant. The only caveat I would add is, well, I'd like to see most of it devoted towards park facility and turf field and other amenities there. There are some DCCs that can support some of the work there too. And what I'd like to do is see us provide something to other regions of Colwood that haven't benefited from DCCs. So I know washrooms at city parks are there. Well, Herm Williams Park, for example, you know, places like that in sort of, I guess you call it North Colwood, for lack of a better definition. You know, if we can do some other small projects, you know, associated with a larger park project, you know, we can show people in areas that it's not all about Royal Bay. It's not about all of the, you know, Colwood corners and the new areas. A lot of people in the public, and I'm sorry I'm being long-winded, but they don't understand DCCs and how they work. They just see us as getting money from developers, and it never benefits them. We always just turn around and spend it in Royal Bay again. They don't understand that that's, you know, that's how it works. So here's an opportunity with some funds to go to those folks and say, hey, your area of the community matters just as much to us. Let's do something for you. So that's something to consider anyway, from my perspective.
My whole concern is making sure we spend this within the 5 years. So the reality is that what I favor, you know, it's not that achievable actually, because our own processes are what kill us right now. So the ready-made type projects are probably the most applicable ones to do here. But let me explain something. So I am in favor of, definitely in favor of the recreation, you know, a multi-purpose facility in a vision that I see is something that can be used just more than recreation. It can be used for, you know, town hall meetings. It could be used for things with the youth services, drop-in, you know, a multi-purpose facility. And they're around. We can get models, and we can actually get it from some other people's blueprints, you know, but for the right, you know, for the right price that we wanna build our facility for. So I absolutely support the money for this, because that is the intent and the spirit of this money. You know, it's you're a growing community. These amenities are changing and they're growing with it. So it's a bit self-serving for us to do it. I mean, the easy solution is just throw it towards public works. I definitely support public works facility, but to the public, how is that amenity helping them, right? It's not seen that way, right? They're gonna say, well, that's something for the city. Well, they serve you, but it's indirect, right? So I think the intent of this money is, your growing community. The RCMP station would have been a practical one, but because of how we're gonna try to finance this now, it may not be so smart. So, and the problem right now is everyone doesn't understand the healthcare facility right now. So let me put it this way. The provincial government will not come along and build that facility for us. Just make it very perfectly clear. They said, you build it, we'll fill it full of doctors. Made it very clear. That's how it's gonna be. And unfortunately, we weren't smart enough way back when to start collecting DCCs and making sure that was a requirement for, different neighborhoods. We made a boo-boo. So we're trying to make up for this right now. And what can I say? I'm supportive of this because we need it. I look at it this way. We have almost 21,000 people, 20,000 some odd according to the latest census thing, unofficial census thing. And we have 0 family doctors in Colwood. 0. How is that serving our public? Nothing. So people argue, well, it's not your bailiwick. Well, in fact, it is. Well, housing isn't our bailiwick. Childcare isn't. I could just keep naming them off, and they're not ours, and yet we're doing them. We've done nothing to support our aging population, and even our younger population. We have not got family doctors. And if I sound a bit passionate about it, it's because look at how much I personally cost this system because I did not have a family doctor. It's ridiculous. The cost of my diabetes treatment, which I broke, the cost of all this heart crap that I had right now, it should have never got to that if I had a family doctor. So look what it's cost the system. And so if I get passionate about this, it's something that we need to look after our citizens for. This helps all our citizens. And the reason why we should build it and we should own it is because our citizens get the right to first refusal. Move to Colwood because we're going to give you a family doctor. So I get passionate about this. I'm sorry. Now, some dynamics have changed, which I will have a workshop about because it looks like we have a partner that wants to do it for us now. And I can't mention this right now in public. And this is just a very recent development. So I guess I'm for option 2. And that option 2 maybe the first part of it may not even be required. It might be 100% towards a recreation multi-purpose facility. But, because that first part, the top part of the access to healthcare may not even be required. Anyways, I just thought I'd say my piece and who hasn't spoken yet? Oh, Councillor Ward, and then I'll go back to Councillor Ward and Councillor Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your piece. It was inspiring. I think we really need to look, set our priorities on the health thing, but I didn't, when I looked at this, I guess I didn't look at that aspect or the police or as much as I'd like Public Works to get some of the support, I also understood it was going to be a part of a separate approach and funding model item. However, that aside, if those funds go that way, I could support any one of those. One of the police thing, it seems to be a separate item. I would like to see something to do with, I guess the term is recreation. I see the multi-purpose facility working with the arts. We haven't used that word, nobody's talked about it. The arts are a form of recreation. People do spend a lot of money, time, and effort at these things. And I think that the city is woefully short of any facility like it. Multi-purpose can sometimes be no purpose because the structure is designed and built to handle certain things and nothing that has a specific requirement gets looked after. If this particular facility were to have a bit of an arts emphasis, it would have things like perhaps a sprung floor, or it would have
a certain size space, maybe seating that might be flexible in a way that would accommodate that type of crowd, whatever. So I lean heavily toward the recreation or the arts direction, which I guess is more like option 1, which does mention the public works facility as well.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate your impassioned discussion. I'd actually like to make a motion. I'm happy to wait till someone else.
I'll turn around and come to you.
Thank you.
Councillor Day and then Councillor Olson.
Thanks. I just wanted to bring forward some things that have been in the community for quite a long time that this council maybe hasn't heard as loudly, but youth are really wanting a space where they can meet. And that's been on the table for about 15 years. They're not youth anymore, unfortunately, but having a space, and we heard this echoed at the Village Initiative when they were talking about the need for any ability to have a bookable space, and the arts have the same issue. So if we were to build a Royal Bay recreation facility that was multi-purpose, similar to the Seniors Activity Center, where they have rooms that have cupboards and lockable places and meeting spaces to that could either facilitate arts or a networking session or a group getting together to talk about any number of things, or even doing some sort of physical indoor activity like yoga or any of the other things that support it. But none of the things that we've talked about are addressing what really came out as our survey #1 issue, which was climate. And it's not sexy to talk stormwater, but those areas need support too. So I hear that Councillor Ward had a motion to make. I was hoping to support option 2 with 50% to healthcare and 50% to the Royal Bay recreation amenity, but I'll wait to see what Councillor Ward wants to put forward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Olson, first time speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I just wanted to say that, I really was leaning originally toward option 1, but I think that could go either way. But one of the things that stood out to me, and it's a small thing that Councillor Ward mentioned about benefiting neighborhoods that don't get the benefit of the DCC. So anything that we can do to enhance some of the parks with washroom facilities and whatnot, I would like to see that we commit to that. Because I think a lot of our parks do need, especially in the older neighborhoods of Colwood, do need to have some enhancements like washrooms and such. So, but I'm happy to support option 1 or 2 at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Jordison.
Again, I'm trying to say that this building this multi-purpose rec facility could support all of those things that were discussed. So I just had crafted a motion, but Councillor Ward got to that first, so I'll just let him speak to that first.
You can always defeat it. Try yours. That's okay. That's fine. Okay, thanks very much. I will go to Councillor Ward for your motion. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I suspect that Councillor Jordan, I am guessing here, we might not be too far apart, because my belief, and I don't discount what anybody has said here, is that a multi-purpose facility is truly that. It's described as a multi-purpose recreation facility, but you can have a facility that's all encompassing. It incorporates a healthcare facility, incorporates space for youth, for community meetings, town halls, all of these things that we speak of. And Mr. Mayor, if I'm accurate, I believe that that's what you're talking about. You're talking about incorporating everything into one. So for me, I think there's a logical solution, and this is just my perspective, but my motion would be to dedicate 89% of the funding to a multi-purpose facility to be situated in or adjacent to Quarry Park in Royal Bay. 10% of the funding to support the installation of an artificial turf field at Quarry Park with the differential possibly made up by community grants and things from some of the interested parties that could work with the city. And then the remaining 1% to be dedicated, that's roughly over 60,000 K, to a small amenity to be situated in sort of North Colwood area, be it washrooms in Herm Williams or something of that type, so that we spread it around. But the bulk of the money, again, 89% of it, would be dedicated towards this facility. That's my motion.
Do I have a seconder for that? Okay. So. Councillor Day? Is that discussion? Councillor Jensen.
I don't want to prolong this, but I will anyways. They, let's not drop the public works off the table too quickly. I mean, we're going to be up to spending a few $100,000 on buildings that are at end of life pretty quickly, which will be, directly related to a tax increase in some form or another. Thank you. But on the face of it, I don't oppose what you're saying.
Yeah, I think everyone should clearly understand this, although we haven't made a decision on it, that this came up before that fund, that Growing Communities Fund came up. We were gonna, we can either do it or not do it, right? So this is for the growing funds, like it's the spirit of what the funds were for, right? So you're growing, amenities are growing, right? So I just want to make sure you're clear that it's not, if we don't approve it here, that doesn't mean we're not doing it. Okay, please go ahead, Councillor Jensen.
In rebuttal, I would argue as the community grows, it's going to require more public works. Thank you, Ward.
Councillor Ward.
Mr. Mayor, just to argue for this. So first of all, I believe that Jen said at the outset, we're not bound by any one of these options. They've carefully presented some options to us, but made it very clear that it was open to us to determine what makes sense. For me, arbitrarily splitting something 50-50 could just mean that now you've got to find additional funding to do something. So if you want to split 50% off the idea of a multi-purpose facility, where does the other 50% come from? So you're just going to be back at the table looking to find that money. So to give some insight into my thought process, the reason I allocate the core of that money, 89%, is to get it built upfront with minimal borrowing, leaving the option under our debt ceiling, if we approve the police to go through the CRD, to borrow for the public works building. So as I said in a different meeting, a different subject, you can have your cake and eat it too. I think we can do all of these things here and basically please everyone, which is a rarity at this table.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jordison, please.
Sorry, I'm gonna wait.
Okay. I guess just I'll make the parting comments on this one before we vote on. I guess if we don't have to make a decision, then why are we doing it? Then why are we talking about this? Because I guess at this point in time, there's so many, the dynamics of the improved access to healthcare may go away, right? It may, because of certain dynamics that are happening. And then were you going to do 100% towards a multi-purpose facility, or are we back to discussing half of it going to that and half of it going to the public? I mean, it's all $1, it's all the same dollars. I mean, either we're basically subsidizing something that we'd have to borrow the full thing for or half the thing for. It doesn't matter really. Someone brought that point up right now to me. It was hopefully, we could have had a project that would actually equaled 6.7 million, blah, blah, blah dollars. And it would have made it nice and easy, ready to go, bang. just pick it. But it doesn't really matter, I guess, in the end, because, you know, one way or the other, if we approve something, we're gonna have to borrow or take it out of whatever funds that we can do. But, you know, I mean, I'm supportive of, I'm definitely supportive of the money going to Public Works facility. I mean, we have to borrow the money one way or the other, but it's just, like I said, it goes back to the spirit of what the growing communities fund was for. I kept on reading that letter over and over and over. And yes, indirectly, you're absolutely right, Councillor Jensen. You know, more of a cop station, because it was a cop per pop thing, right? It's pretty easy to justify. But, you know, you can also, you can't make that same argument because we already had the Public Works building on before we even had this grant. So that's why I had problems, and I just looked at, let's just borrow. That's where I was going on that one. So I don't know. I'm not particularly in support of Councillor Ward's magic formula there. So, but yeah, if there's no other questions, okay. Councillor Day, yeah, you were the seconder, so you can motivate.
I do apologize. I am going around and around the mulberry bush on this one in my own head. And I think we all are. And I just recognized during this last round that this kind of happens every time we get a financial decision out ahead of our budget deliberations. And that's not anyone's fault or anything. It's just that, you know, the stuff that sticks in our head is the stuff that sticks in our head. And sometimes not everything comes immediately jumping to mind. And so I just want to remind people that we could put this off and think about it after we're looking at the budget and make the decision soon, but not, you know, in isolation of all the other budgetary pressures that we have. But I would note that we really need to do better on finding a way to address climate change, because it was all up there on our list. It was the one that came out highest on the survey, and it is the one that we're least able to answer the question what we would do to address climate change financially. So I don't have a magic answer. I think this is a good motion. We're doing something that trying to accomplish a task with funding that is newly made available to us in a way that meets that grant. And I'm not married to it, but I do think we're better to put our eggs in one basket and get a real tangible benefit for it.
And no other comments, I'll, okay, do we have his motion right now again? Can you post it?
I don't have it typed up. No. Do you? No. So it was to
89?
allocate 89% for the multipurpose facility,
Yeah.
and 10% to the artificial turf installation at Quarry Park, and 1% towards a small amenity. And I believe you said I can't remember the wording on the area in Colwood.
North Colwood.
North Colwood. Yeah.
I don't know what you can buy under a capital program for that money, though. That's. Oh shit, that won't get you. That'll get you nothing. That won't even get you a fountain. Anyways, so that's the motion. I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion? 2, and those against. So the motion is defeated. Yes, please. Councillor Jordison.
I would like to make a motion that 100% of the allocation go to the multi-purpose recreation facility. And within the facility, we allocate, it sounds to me like it's room that we're looking for. We allocate space for to support the recreation and our youth. And if a space is required, infrastructure to support improved access to healthcare.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that one? Okay. Councillor Day?
Your worship, if I may.
Yes.
Sorry, and I don't mean to dissuade debate. And perhaps I'll ask Mr. Borhill, but my instinct is council has yet to receive any cost estimates for the rec center. It is my expectation when council does, you will likely see that 100% contribution of this grant will fund less than 40% of the cost of the rec center, which will trigger a borrowing for the remainder. If 5 years spend is important, we would need to crystallize Quarry Park expansion, as well as secure any remaining funding for the rec center. And so I just, to provide additional information for this debate, we've got a preliminary cost estimate that is substantially larger than $6.5 million.
Great point. Yeah. Maybe. Yes, please. Councillor Day.
I would like to propose that we defer this or refer this decision to a future meeting where we have more information. Like we need a timeline. I've never seen, I don't have any idea what I'm and we do.
Yes.
Oh, right.
That's right. There is I was just going to stop you because there is a motion on the table. So I'm going to call the question on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Okay, all those against? Okay, now, Councillor Day. Oh, sorry about that. Getting silly.
I think it's been a very long day, and I just think we need to refer this to a future meeting when we have more information to base this decision on. I think we know where we'd like to go. We just don't have the details to be sure that's the right direction.
Okay, do I have a seconder, and then I'm going to go for you, Jen. Okay, Councillor Grove. Thank you. Jen?
If I may, I recommend deferral to the 2024 budget deliberation process.
Perfect. So is that a friendly amendment then? Okay. Councillor Grove, that's okay as a seconder? In fact, I was wondering maybe if it works out for you, maybe that's the first thing we discuss, is the capital budget. I don't know if I don't think that makes sense though. No, forget it. Forget I even said that. I just figured that out myself. Jesus. Late this night and I can still figure that stuff out. Thank you. Okay, no other, Councillor Jordison?
I just have a question. I'm not understanding something. So if we had chosen option 1, allocating 50% to multipurpose and then 50% to the public works, we still would have been in a situation to have to borrow. So how is it any different than what I was suggesting? Like we still would have needed more money. Like,
If I may.
Okay.
In my experience, council will always face competing priorities for limited resources. This decision is no exception. Is this decision coming before budget deliberations? We were talking about this during the 2023 budget deliberations. We continued the conversation after 2023. We're looking to incorporate any update into the 2024 budget deliberations. As you know, a number of these projects and these initiatives are incorporated into our existing financial plan. We spent a fair bit of time during the last budget deliberations talking about the city's debt management. Our current budget assumes that we are debt financing the public works facility. It assumes that we are debt financing the RCMP detachment. And so you're absolutely correct. I mean, depending on how we allocate this grant funding, it may or may not impact other aspects of these projects. As you've heard from our CAO tonight, some of these projects that were previously included into financial plans were based off preliminary cost estimates, or it was just a feasibility study that was incorporated and we didn't yet have the capital cost estimates. So absolutely further information will be coming that will inform just how much of a project or initiative this grant will cover. But you're not wrong. So the public works facility, it's in the city's financial plan. It is proposed to be financed through debt, and that debt is going to be serviced through taxation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I will call the question then. All those in favor? And those opposed? Just Councillor Jensen's opposed to referring. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you very much. West Shore RCMP detachment expansion, project financing request. Jen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a presentation explicitly planned for this topic. So as you will recall, the last time we were before you, this council endorsed that work continue to advance the expansion of the West Shore Detachment Facility. And specifically, we appointed our mayor and our CAO to a steering committee. Since January of this year, that steering committee has met a number of times, both with the mayors, with the CAOs, but also to include CFOs. The purpose of this report before you tonight and the staff recommendation is to summarize the recommendation from the steering committee. And that is that we look to finance the expansion of the RCMP detachment facility through the regional district, through the CRD. And so what this means is that we would need to reach out and ask the CRD to create a sub-regional service servicing the 3 municipalities, Colwood, View Royal, and the city of Langford. And we also need to give the CRD a cost estimate. The CRD can then take this information and they can move forward to create the loan authorization bylaws. So as you likely recall, none of the 3 municipalities have sufficient reserves to finance this expansion. So all 3 municipalities were proposing to debt finance. But as we've advanced conversations about how we will go about doing that, it absolutely brought to light the challenges that would be inherent should each 3 municipality move ahead independently. Because of the cost estimates of the work, we would need to go through a public approval process. And so this report does highlight the considerations that were made in why we are proposing that we move with the CRD financing. The report provides a fair bit of background. Consistent staff reports have gone forward to the city of Langford. The city of Langford has moved the staff recommendation. Town of View Royal has also moved the staff recommendation. So tonight we are looking for this council's direction on the financing of the detachment, and then we will continue. Please answer any questions.
Open it up for questions and then I'll make the motion. Okay. Councilor Ward.
You stole my thunder, Mr. Mayor. I was going to make the motion just to accept the staff recommendation because
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion. I basically to argue for it. I don't think there's really any need, as you heard the other municipalities have, it's very positive for our debt ceiling and everything else. But my only question I think for you, Jen, is I'm just trying to get an understanding about how the other partners factor into this, Metchosin and Highlands, because they're getting their RCMP services through the province, but yet they're using the same facility. Are we asking them to contribute to this? Do they just get a freebie on this thing? How does that work for the small communities that kind of latch on?
Through your worship, that is a great question. I don't have a direct answer on that, but when we look at the membership of this detachment facility, it is the 3 municipalities. Machosen is not one of the member owners. But as municipalities grow, and should they be utilizing space within the facility, our current administrative agreement on the RCMP facility does see us recover some lease revenue from the province, so for their membership at the detachment. And so as municipalities in the region grow, and if use of this facility shifts with time, then we would be looking to understand how those costs associated with the facility, including debt servicing costs, are funded. But today, not explicitly responsible. It is just the 3 municipalities. And the current cost sharing is one based on proportional share of assessment and population.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Grove will second the motion, and then we're just into discussion because I'm trying to expedite this. Councillor Day, please.
Thank you. My question is around finance, and just because I happen to know the answer, Machosen recently moved to paying their own police services because they're now over 5,000 people. So they would pay their for their RCMP services directly, the same as Colwood used to. But they don't own the building as we do. So there should be, I would imagine, some revenue coming to Colwood for providing that building. But in terms of the letter that the motion proposes to send to the Capital Regional District, requesting that they establish a sub-regional service for the purpose of debt financing, I just want to be clear that the only service they'll be providing is the debt financing, that they won't have any impact on decisions we would make about how we staff our RCMP building.
Through the mayor, thank you for the question. Correct. This is simply seeking approval for the CRD to create a sub-regional service for purpose of financing the construction only.
Excellent. Because I think it's important. Every service is going to have challenges from year to year, and we will have opportunities to set our priorities and our staffing levels to suit our community.
Yes, it's not an unusual practice to have these sub-regional requests. They did it for the sewage treatment out in the Sandwich Peninsula, so it's not. Councillor Jensen.
Along the same lines, probably, I get a little tepid about these types of situations. I just wonder about encroachment as far as the senior level of government, inserting themselves into our affairs. I understand the finance situation, but in no other way are they stepping on any of the member owners. There's no hiring of additional staff to manage this. There's none of that on the part of the CRD.
Through the mayor, correct. There is none of that. No, this is the steering committee, specifically administration, as we had these conversations about how we can ensure just as straightforward an administrative financing process as possible on a capital project that does impact a number of municipalities. We reached out to the Capital Regional District. We also had conversations with the MFA to understand the implications, but this is simply to streamline the process of receiving the debt that is necessary to finance these works.
Thank you very much. Just one final question I have for you, Jen. That money that's in our bank account right now, right? It's in our bank account. The 6 point or the pardon me, I've just lost myself here. It's it's I forgot to ask that in the last round there, but it doesn't matter. It's immaterial. I think it is. because that was bothering me a little bit because I meant to ask this and I'm just a little slow right now, but it bothered me a little bit because of the fact that if I think what the other mayors had told me, they just went out with a request, said, this is what we're gonna spend, not knowing that they're gonna change it anyways. That's what I was told.
The Growing Communities Grant, that cash has been received by the city. It is restricted.
Yeah, ownership is 9/10. Anyways, on that note, no other questions. I'm gonna call the question right now. All those in favor of the motion? And any opposed? It's unanimous. Motion that passes. And you're on again. Yes. 2024 budget approach.
This council will be hearing a fair bit from me in the upcoming months. Tonight, we are looking for council's endorsement of the 2024 budget approach. Preface this by saying we are taking a similar approach that we have with previous budgets. The timeline starts with service review, which starts this week. November 29th will be our first service review meeting. We will meet over a series of special council dates. Then in the new year, we will shift out of service review. We will have incorporated that direction that we receive as we continue with budget deliberations in the new year. The staff report before you outlines a number of the financial implications and the considerations that we take and integrate into the draft financial plan. Pleased to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, Councillor Dave.
Thanks. I know that I'm going to regret this for the next 2 weeks, but I will move that council endorse the 2024 budget approach, including the timeline for the service review and budget deliberations.
Okay, Councillor Georgeson seconds it. Other discussion, Councillor Guro. No, everyone disappeared. Everyone. Okay, seeing no other discussion, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion, that's a unanimous motion, is passes. Thank you very much, Jen. Into bylaws now. Okay. Bylaw number 17. Okay, I'll just get Marcy, I'll get you to read these. Thank God you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So bylaw number 1709, OCP plan amendment. Olympic View local area plan, first and second reading.
Grove and Jensen. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous. Motion carries. Next one, please, Marcy.
Bylaw number 2008, signed bylaw omnibus amendments, first, second, and third reading.
Okay. Motion, please. Olson and Grove. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Unanimous. Next one, please.
Bylaw number 2007, land use bylaw 2023 omnibus amendments, and that's for first and second reading.
First and seconder, please. Jensen and Olson. Discussion. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion is unanimous. Approved. Last
bylaw is bylaw number 2009, Colwood Main Sewer LAS enlargement for 530 Langholm Drive, first, second, and third readings.
Mover and seconder. Grove and Ward. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. Any opposed? Any opposed? Seeing none, unit passed. It's unanimous. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Holy mackerel. Pick anyone. Discussion. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Oh,